Hey there. Are you free of all grudges or grief? Coach Alex Van Houten, Faithful Fitness Podcast here. We help you make the most out of the body God's given you. And in this episode, we're talking to Leah Fruth. And we'll be talking about how grudges and grief don't just affect your mind and your emotions, they affect your body too. It's time to forgive. Time to process. If you haven't picked up your copy yet, you need the Faithful Fitness Devotional. Find the link in the show notes. All right. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? This is Coach Alex Van Houten on the Faithful Fitness Podcast. Our mission is to help you make the most out of the body God's given you, and I know this episode is going to help you do just that. I am joined by my new friend, Miss Leah Fruth. Good morning, sister. How you doing?
Morning. I'm doing so well.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, it looks like.
Yes. I'm ready.
Before we get into our conversation, we're going to talk about grief and stress, which is actually more fun than it sounds because it's going to be a redeeming conversation. We're also going to talk about forgiveness and what that has to do with our health, which a lot of people don't understand how that's connected. So I'm excited to dive into that. But before we get there, we're friends on the front that we like our coffee and our kombucha. You have kombucha in that cup right now?
Yes, homemade.
Homemade. What's the flavor? What are you going for there?
I just put ginger in it. I just like,
Ginger.
yeah.
Nice. Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Can you please explain to my audience what kombucha is and why you like it?
Well, it's just tea, but it's fermented tea. And so I don't know, I'm a big coffee drinker, but my stomach feels so much better when I don't drink coffee. And so I've just found a love, but I love all drinks. So like you name it, coffee, matcha, tea, kombucha, I love them all. So
How long have you been making your own kombucha? That's a
a
thing.
little over a year. It's
Oh,
really simple. I did sourdough, the whole sourdough thing in
okay.
2020, and that is so much more work than kombucha. Kombucha is way simpler, I feel like. And I went into it saying, it's fine to be average at some things. That's what I tell myself. And so I'm an average kombucha maker. I
Perfect.
keep, I keep it average and it's good and it's a lot cheaper than the store.
No joke.
That's why I had to make it
They're
because
like
I was like,
five
my
to seven
pocketbook.
dollars for like
Yes.
20 ounces, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was
Okay.
like, I can't do this because I was limiting myself and I wanted more, but I didn't want to spend that much money. So
No
I started
joke.
making it.
That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. Very thrifty of you. My wife went through the sourdough thing too,
Yeah.
and she I want to say we had like 4 years of sourdough, and it got to be like a chore. I like to run, so sourdough is great fuel for running, and the the probiotics and whatnot that come out of
Mhm.
that were nice to my stomach. Most breads don't sit
Right.
well with me, so it was great. But after a while, it was like we have to eat 2 loaves of bread every like to
Yes.
justify this we have to eat 2 loaves of bread, so we ended up
Right.
feeding a lot to the chickens, and she was like, I'm over it. So basically it's you have to keep your culture right, and you have to
Yep.
add it to
Yes.
your tea
Yes.
mixture,
Yep.
and then it sounds like you
Yeah.
flavor with ginger, and then you're good to go.
Yep. It's really easy. I always have it on my counter, fermenting, and then I bottle it. And so I have my 3 bottles on my counter and my fermented going. And it's really takes like 20 minutes at a time.
That's
But so it's
awesome. Does anybody else in your house drink your kombucha, or is this just
I'm
yours?
pretty stingy about it. I'm like, you can only have a little bit. But my youngest really loves it, and so he's always sneaking some.
That's hilarious. Like the
And then
little
I feel
redheaded.
bad because I'm like, I should be more giving with it, but
Hey man, you made it. You're like, hey, I bet your youngest could figure it out. Like if you taught him, he could make his own
probably
little batch.
he probably could.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation. And to those listening, if you haven't tried kombucha and you're not
Mhm.
making your own kombucha, it's actually got some very good research around consuming fermented foods. Kombucha is one of them.
Mhm.
You can have all kinds of other fermented foods, but fermented foods are really powerful for your microbiome and can help your immune system. It sounds like it helps your stomach, Leah.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. And I find that if you make something, especially it's cost effective, but if you make something, you tend to enjoy it more, and it brings an element of like peace and accomplishment to the process, as opposed to just picking it up off the store shelf and not having to worry about what
Yeah.
ingredients are in it.
Yeah. And absolutely less sugar too in it too. So that's
Oh,
in the store
right.
bought one.
Yeah, my
So
store-bought one's probably like 30 grams of sugar a serving,
mhm.
which is great
Yeah.
post-workout, but not
Right.
in general good for. Okay,
Yeah.
so for our audience, you're a mom, you
Hmm.
are a fitness instructor, you are a health coach, you are really passionate about helping individuals find freedom from stress, from
Hmm.
grief, and from the things that ail our bodies
Yeah.
well, in just about every respect, right? And
Yep.
and so
Yes.
so I wanna dial in on something that you said. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about
Hmm.
grief. We're going to talk about fitness as worship and stewardship. But I want to talk about something that you said in preparation for our interview, and you said something along these lines. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so if I
Yep.
need to correct it, please help me here. You said, I want to be able to talk about forgiveness because many people don't understand what this has to do with their health and fitness journey. So that's a very powerful statement. It's also an odd statement, not bad odd, but like good odd, like,
Yeah.
there might be something to that. Leah,
Yeah.
can you talk to me about in your time as a fitness instructor and health coach, what are some of the ways you're noticing forgiveness as a starting point, or at least a necessary place in somebody's health and fitness journey? What are you noticing that makes you connect the two?
Yeah. I feel like so many of my clients come in and like my last client, for example, she came in saying she was so angry all the time and she didn't like it because she says, I'm not an angry person, but
Mm,
she has two kids and every single thing is just setting her off,
mm,
and she didn't like it. When we have our first session, I always have a first session getting to know their story. And then by the second, I always offer forgiveness as our second option. And the clients that grab hold of that and are saying, yeah, I need to forgive someone. That's one of my first questions in their paperwork. Who do you need to forgive? Is there anyone in your life you need to forgive? And everybody always has somebody,
yeah.
if they're willing to admit it. And usually they're not just little things. They're
Mm,
huge moments in their life, traumas and hurts and pains. Um, and so when you're holding on to all that and you're not willing to let it go, and that's not, forgiveness is never saying what they did was right or it was
right.
okay, even. It's saying, I give that to Jesus to handle. He's got it.
Mm,
It's not on me anymore. I can let that go. When you let that go in that way, it frees you up so much to
mm,
live fully again. It frees you up to do the things they're looking for. They're coming in for health coaching saying, I want to move my body. I want to wake up earlier. I want to be with Jesus more. I want to eat better. But they're holding on to this for years. And
mm,
once you let it go, it's unbelievable. The it's like the thing that super speeds. Like it's in the health journey. It is so much quicker than when people are like, I don't know if I want to go there. It's a
mm,
slower process. But these people, when they come in and they forgive, by the next session, that lady was hearing from God for the first time. She
mm,
was waking up wanting to do some just be still time. She started moving her body. Within 8 weeks, she was like a totally different person. And all we did is meet with Jesus most of the time.
mm,
So it's just forgiveness is how we were designed.
mm,
It's it I think we forget sometimes it's what Jesus came for.
mm,
It's was his whole mission is like forgiving us and us receiving forgiveness from him, and he called us to forgive. I Jesus designed us to live healthily, and that was one of his secrets I think he gave us is
mm.
forgive. Be quick to forgive and we would live better and more
Yeah,
fuller lives, right?
yeah. There's a couple places in scripture. For those who are familiar with the Gospels, I highly recommend reading the Sermon on the Mount. That's in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. And in the amount of times that Christ talks about forgiveness in that sermon is pretty powerful, given that it's such an amazing sermon all the way across, and he addresses so many issues. But forgiveness is a recurring theme. If I'm not mistaken, it's there that he says, when you have a gift to give to God, so you bring your gift to the
Yep.
altar, when you notice in your heart that you have something against your brother, you have
Hmm.
then leave your gift. In other words, don't even try to give it to God. Don't even try to give your offering. Don't even try to bring your worship to God.
Yeah.
Go make peace with your brother. Go finish that conflict. Go forgive, and then come back and
Yeah.
give your offering to God. And
Yeah.
it's such a, to me, that's such a poignant. We don't have temples anymore, or I
Mhm.
mean, most aspects of Christianity don't have temples anymore. We're not, many of us are bringing our gifts to an altar. Through the Holy Spirit and following Christ, we have an opportunity every day to
Mhm.
bring our worship to God and worship Him in spirit and in truth. But that is such a poignant
Mhm.
command. He's not suggesting it. He said to do it. It's
Yeah.
such a poignant command. Hey, if you have something to give to God, if you have worship to offer to God, if you want to be close to God, then
Mhm.
before you do anything, you need
Yeah.
to deal with this conflict in your heart and your mind
Yeah.
against somebody else.
Yeah.
And what, like,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
if you live that out, that is quite the command. Because you said,
Yeah.
hey, when you write
Yeah.
stuff down, when people report that in your sessions, everybody's got something. And
Yeah.
it might be way back in the past,
Mhm.
and it might be big, deep, and dark, and we can talk about bitter roots and bitter fruits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like I'm a dad, and I'm a husband,
Yeah.
and I'm a business owner. Stuff happens every day
Right.
that I need to forgive,
Yeah.
and I'm not perfect. I need to be forgiven
Right.
about. And
Yeah.
so that's a thing that if I don't give it up, if I don't let it go, if I don't
Yeah.
actively go through the process of shedding the weight that I accumulate in
Mhm.
unforgiven masses over time,
Yes.
I will carry that thing in my spirit, and that shows up in the body.
And like if you haven't forgiven things way in the past, it seems to be that you're just letting it all add up and you're not forgiving the daily things either.
Mhm.
And that just, I mean, think of carrying around all that weight all the time and trying to live this hard life that it already is.
Right.
It stops you and gets you stuck a lot of times. And also, it's really hard to explain what forgiveness does because it's like something you can't hold on to. You can't, it's a spiritual thing that makes no sense really. But when I walk people through how to forgive, because we're not taught how to forgive either, it's not
Mm.
just like, I forgive them and you're good. I mean, I have them visualize the person. I have them go through this whole visualization process and name every single thing that person did to them. So there's naming it out loud
Mm.
and then saying, I forgive you, and handing them off to Jesus and
Mhm.
saying, it's your, and it's very powerful, but you can't explain it until you do it and the
Right.
freedom that it brings. And
Mm.
I mean, I years ago sat down one day before I did any of this stuff, health coaching, and felt the Lord convicting me of having to forgive people. And I thought it was like one person, and He told me to make a list. I started making a list, and it was a page long. And I was like, I was
Oh, snap.
shocked, shocked. But it brought so much healing to start going, okay, I'm holding this stuff against all these people. That's
Hmm.
exhausting.
That's exhausting. And,
It's
and
exhausting.
what an honest exercise. It's being
Yeah,
honest with yourself. It's also being honest with God. And it's not, like you said, it's not saying it doesn't matter. It's not saying like what they
right.
did wasn't painful or hurtful,
Yeah.
or it's not absolving the action. It's saying
Mhm.
that as for me and my part,
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold on to this anymore. It makes me think of, do you like to garden? Have you ever kept a garden?
Not great at it.
Not great at it. Much more into the kombucha and sourdough thing.
It's,
Yeah. So it
yeah.
makes me think of a garden. I like to garden, or like I like to think I like to garden. It's not my favorite thing to do, but if I have a garden and I'm trying to grow some tomatoes, which are much harder than it sounds, by the way.
Mhm.
If I'm trying to grow some tomatoes and I've got these weeds springing up
Yep.
in my planter boxes, the weeds steal
Mhm.
nutrients from the good plant, right?
Yes.
And if I have a bunch of weeds stealing nutrients from the good plant is going to be, well, it's going to be stunted in its growth. There's only
Yep.
so much nutrients to go around in the soil, and sometimes the weeds can choke it out, and sometimes the weeds can overshadow it, and all that. And
Mhm.
so if I let those weeds accumulate,
Yeah.
my good fruit won't grow. And
Yeah.
forgiveness is kind of like that. It's like throughout
Mhm.
your life, you're going to have these little
Yes.
little things spring up that can steal the nutrients from the good plant
100%.
of your life, from the good soil of your heart and your mind. And when you remove those weeds, then you well, you're kind of free. You're not carrying it around anymore. You've got all the nutrients and goodness that you need in the soil of your life. But to carry this metaphor just a little farther, if
Mhm.
I pull the
Yeah.
if I pull the top of the weed out,
We
but I
weed
don't,
whack them.
yeah, if I weed whack them and I don't get the root, that doesn't
Yeah.
fix it. This
Nope.
they'll spring back up,
Yep.
sometimes even stronger than before,
Yes.
right? And so what you're talking about there is actually getting the root. You
Yeah.
define the whole thing, and you
Hmm.
don't pull any punches. Like, this is what
Right.
happened. This is how it hurt. Here are all the ways it affected my life. Here's that whole root of that weed,
Yeah.
and then you can pull it out and you go, here you go. All this stuff, God, I'm not holding on to do
Yep.
it anymore. That's your weed to deal with. It's
Yes.
out of the garden of my life. Do you have anything to add to that? I think that's
And
a good visual for what you're saying.
two things, and handing them off to Jesus, like visualizing giving those people to Jesus, because that's powerful in itself too. It's saying not only is he a just God and he can handle things
Mm,
that have happened to you wrongly, but also that you can say he can do a miracle in that person too. And
yes.
even he can take care of that person and pray that they see Jesus, you
Hmm.
know? So that is huge. And also, you can do this alone. 100% you can do this. You and God is beautiful that way. But I've
Hmm.
also found power in having another person there because when you're naming those things out loud, someone's there to hear you and say, that's valid. Like, that
Hmm.
is real. And so that matters because so many things we're holding on the inside that no one ever knows, you know? And also, it can be things in your life that I say often, if you felt it was true, it's true in this moment.
Mm.
So if you felt like someone looked at you funny and thinks awful of you, you know, that's a simple thing. But if you
Sure.
felt it was true, it's true for you. And so
Hmm.
that's not going out and telling people, you know, it's when you're forgiving someone, it's between you and God. And if you feel it, you're holding on to it. So it's true for you. So
Hmm.
you can
Well,
name
it's
those
like
things.
so my son has loose ankles like I do, and he can step off a sidewalk or something and roll it, poor guy. So I've been through this in my life. I'm going to get to help him walk through this well, no pun intended. But so
Mhm.
he rolls his ankle, and at first, as a dad, I'm like, dude, get up, like, dust yourself off, stop crying. Like, what's wrong with you? This happens all the time because I've lived through almost
Mhm.
40 years of this issue in myself. But what I understood in my life was that just because there was a time in my life where I felt like my pain didn't matter to anybody else doesn't mean that my pain doesn't matter. And that's not something I should project on my own children. I need to teach him your pain matters. Like,
Yes.
I what you just wrestle with, that hurts, man. It's awful. I hate that for you. I'm here for you. And here's the deal. Your pain matters, but as your dad, I care so much that this doesn't keep you from living your life to your fullest, right? And that's the thing about forgiveness is acknowledging, hey, my pain matters. This suffering was real. This was difficult and hard. At the same time, I don't need to let that be what defines my life. I don't need to let
Exactly.
that be what eats at me on the inside. I don't need that to take up any bandwidth up here.
Yeah.
I don't need to hold on to it in my spirit. And this makes me, it reminds me of what Jesus said about forgiveness and judgment as well. He said, if we don't forgive
Mhm.
the wrongs done to us, then our Father in heaven will not forgive us
Yeah.
of the
That
wrongs
one. Yeah.
we've done to him. And he
Yeah.
also goes on to say, judge not lest ye be judged. That doesn't mean don't judge. You got to finish
Yeah.
the sentence. For
Yeah.
whatever judgment we put on somebody else, that is the litmus test. That's the judgment
Yeah.
that will be put on us. So if we're willing to forgive, then what God does for us is he gives that same level of forgiveness and
Yeah.
that same love to us that we're willing to extend to other people. And so I think that's a wonderful thing to start with in your practice. I'm so grateful
Yeah.
that you do it. And I imagine that the individuals that you work with from a health coaching perspective didn't know they were coming to you for that at
No.
first.
No.
But then weeks after, they're like,
Yeah.
man, this is wonderful.
Yeah. They always, yeah. It's always you have to be really gentle in that, right? But they're when they go for it, they're amazed, you know.
Mm,
And these people, a lot of like my last one, I had gone to a bunch of different health coaches, and felt like she'd gotten nowhere, but it wasn't just putting a program on her. It was the inside work that needed
Mm.
health. And our health is whole person, right? That's how I approach it. It's not just the body, but it's not without the body. So
Hmm.
it's all
Hmm.
of us.
Well, so you said something there. I have a guy in my mind. There are some people that I've worked with in my career. I'm so happy I got to help them, and they've done amazing things, and their bodies and their minds and their spirits have shifted and changed, and I'm so proud and excited about that. But there are some people in my journey that I wasn't able to help, that
Mhm.
that I didn't have the tools, I wasn't wise enough, I wasn't mature enough, whatever
Yep.
the case was, that when I started working with them, I didn't understand how deep things went. So this is probably a decade ago now. But I remember working with a guy who was really wrestling with, he would call it food addiction.
Mhm.
Looking back on it, what I would say is there was a numbing mechanism for him that he was using food to cover up.
Yeah.
There was pain, there was suffering, there was difficulty, resentment, and he was using food to regulate himself when the
Mhm.
day was overwhelming, when things were hard, when he was angry, whatever. He was digging into Reese cups and stuff.
Yeah.
So in the infinite wisdom of a health coach that doesn't understand me.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. We
uh,
all
Obviously, all you have to do is cut out sugar, dude. Like that's no
just
problem.
do
Like
it.
you could just stop eating sugar. Like,
Yep.
which if you're not wrestling with that, sounds very easy. Okay,
Right.
I guess I'll cut out the Reese cups. But for him, this was actually way deeper. This had a
Yeah.
lot to do with things that came out in our sessions. We're working out and stuff, and somehow we would end up talking about the things his brother did to him when he was young,
Yeah.
or the things his father wasn't there for that he was frustrated about, and the things that he was failing as a father and a husband. It was like, oh my gosh, no wonder all you want to do is eat Reese cups, because that sounds way easier.
Yeah.
That sounds
Exactly.
way easier than digging into
Yeah.
all this pain. But easy's not good.
No.
Easy doesn't mean it's
No.
good. It's an indication that something is wrong. And I want to tell our audience here, if you find yourself wrestling with behaviors that from a health perspective aren't good,
Yeah.
but you can't stop doing them, I would
Yep.
love I would love for you to begin exploring what Leah and I have been talking about here, which is there anything that I need to forgive somebody of?
Yeah.
Because I don't need to hold that anymore. You got enough working against you. Don't let this be
Yeah.
one of the things, right? Do you have anything you'd like to address to
Yeah.
individuals who are wrestling
And
with
just
something similar?
and also not just stopping things from doing if you know all the right things to do and you can't do them. Like they're exhausted. That's what I find a lot of people come to me. Like, I know all the things. We have so much information. We know what we have to do,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not doing them. Like there's usually more there,
Mm.
and 6 weeks of pushing yourself, doing all the right things is not going to be it either in the long run. You want things if you do the deep inner work, you're going to be able to sustain your health and
Mm-hmm.
do it and enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think that's excellent. Now, this wisdom is not easy to come by. I know it says it right in scripture. I know it says it.
Yeah.
But just because it says it doesn't mean we always do it.
Hmm.
and doesn't
Yeah.
mean we always understand it, right?
Hmm.
So this is hard won wisdom on
Hmm.
your part, I imagine. And
Yeah.
and so that's it. Can you talk to me about how you came to understand this for yourself? I understand that there was a season of stress, there was a season of
Hmm.
grief and whatnot, but for you, this idea of forgiveness and
Hmm.
and overcoming stress and overcoming grief, this is deep to your story. Do you know, actually, fun fact, do you know what your name means?
I weary one, doesn't it?
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
translations. So
Yeah.
the Hebrew, like if you translate Leah literally,
Hmm.
means weary one or grieved one.
Wow.
But you could take that. That's a
Oh,
little
why'd they
crazy.
name me this? No, I'm
Right,
just
right, right.
kidding.
No, but check it out, because you can take a name to
Yeah.
be to tell you what you are, or you
Mm.
can take a name to understand who you'll become. And
Yeah.
so when you translate it that way, it's one who knows how to deal with grief and weariness,
That's
right?
beautiful.
Like,
Yeah.
whoa. Like that's so great, because
Yeah.
it was so funny when you put that in our interview. I was like, What? Like, I couldn't have planned this any better. Your name is Leah. Did you know? Like, that means the one who
I
knows
never
how to
really
be.
put it together the way you just worded, so I'm gonna have to
It's
sit
like
with that.
another boom moment.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
this is hard one wisdom. You have
Yeah.
dealt with grief. You have dealt with
Mhm.
stress. You've dealt with forgiveness. So can
Mhm.
you tell me a bit about in your story how God taught you that this was a part of the health and fitness of your body?
Yeah. Well, everything I've learned, I feel like first I learned in real life. Uh, so yeah, everything is hard fought and everything that I come with for health coaching is experienced. So um, I will start like forward. The forgiveness piece I feel like came in 2020 when I the world was just a mess, right?
Mm.
And I had lots going on. Had
Even
gone through,
sourdough.
yeah,
Sorry.
even sourdough. That was part of the like stress, probably working out the sourdough. Um, but we had a lot of church. Our church sort of exploded at the same time. A lot of church hurt. Um, and that's in every relationship. I live in a small town, and so every relationship was wrecked in some way by that. Close friends, family, all sorts of things. And so that's what started the forgiveness going. Like I can't walk around with this weight
Can't carry it.
every day. These are people I see every day. These are people I'm gonna live with, whether we disagree on things and people stayed and people left, and so that started it. But then in that process I learned that there were so many people from my entire growing up years that I had never forgiven, and I was holding all of that.
Mm.
And so that was the process. That's what started. And it really took me on a greater journey of healing that
Mm.
I see that as like the pinpoint, but then going through so many other things with wise people helped me grow in so many ways after that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but my story, I lost my dad when I was 10. He was sick for 2 years with a heart disease that he had a heart transplant.
Mm.
And so he was in the hospital a lot those 2 years. So, I mean, I had all that weight as a 10-year-old, like of feeling like I was taking care of my siblings. I had two other siblings at the time. So I'm one that takes on everybody's grief too,
Mm.
is what happens a lot in my life. I take on one, make everybody else feel okay.
Mhm.
Even though I'm not, I'll say I'm good. I'm good. I got everybody else. But my mom quickly remarried and we moved to a new town and they had four boys. And so I was the oldest of seven very quickly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so here I am caring for more, but also never processing my pain about my dad. And so my body, looking back now, I'm like, doctors knew what they knew at the time, but there's so many things that were happening in my body that I couldn't explain. And I had mono multiple times. So, of course, they took my tonsils out. And then I had TMJ problems where it was so bad I had to go through physical therapy because my
Wow.
jaw would hurt. In high school, I had stomach issues severely. And like all these things that they would just label stress. But it was just unprocessed grief and carrying a lot of weight. That I just had nowhere to go with.
Mhm.
Into college where my one of my hands completely went numb in college and they couldn't figure out. Ended up just being my muscles getting so tight that it was constricting my nerves. And
Yeah. Can I
like,
pause your story for
yeah,
just a second? I want
yeah,
you to
please.
continue. But this. So I do a lot of work in children's ministry. It's not like my
Mm,
primary job or anything. It's just
yeah.
a volunteer thing I think is important in our community, and my wife does as well. And we were just teaching our Wednesday night, like it's like
Mhm.
we call it halftime ministry, but they dance and they sing and they play kickball and then we
Yeah.
go through scripture together. And this little girl, she's in third grade. She came up to my wife and she's just bawling. Like, and we're
Mm,
like, oh no, what happened? Did you
yeah.
fall on the sidewalk or whatever? I'm
Mhm.
coaching kickball over here. I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to make sure the
Right.
fourth graders don't yell at the first graders too mean.
Yep.
So they get really competitive. And she's just bawling. And my wife's like, what's going on, sweetheart? And she said, I miss my grandma. Well, her grandma died, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And she was just bawling. And my wife said she walked her through kind of do you know what grief is, sweetheart? Do you understand? She's like, I don't know why. I don't want to. And she's like, no, like, honey, you're grieving right now, and that's okay. Like, and she was explaining to her, I lost my grandma, I lost my grandpa, I lost my dad. And she was explaining it to this young girl, and she
Yeah.
just let her talk and then prayed with her and stuff. And she goes, honey, it's going to get easier, but it's okay to grieve. It's
Yeah.
okay for this to be a thing. And she was saying, like, how many kids get the opportunity for somebody to just like tell them what they're going
Yeah.
through, because kids grieve. I don't care if you're in, I don't know, care if you're 4 years old or if you're 10 years old. Your body and your mind go through the
Hmm.
process of grief that adults do, but most of the time you don't understand what's happening. And so you're right, it's
Right.
internalized as
Yep.
anxiety, it's internalized as stress. And
Hmm.
when you internalize that much emotion and feeling, it's
Yeah.
going to come out in ways that are almost impossible to explain,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
TMJ,
Yep.
or your arm going numb,
Yep.
or and it affects our immune systems. We're
Yep.
learning that grief affects our immune system. So everything you're saying is it's just so like it makes me heartbroken for children,
Mhm.
to help them and double down on making sure that they can process their grief and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it also makes me heartbroken for unhealed adults who
Yeah. Yeah.
who went through this stuff and then, well, kept struggling as
Yeah.
if,
And just keep treating the body, which
yes,
is good and needed, but also if you don't, like we said, take care of all the inside stuff, it's just gonna keep going. It's
it's going
gonna,
to keep
yeah.
piling up. It's going to
Yep.
keep piling up. So I
Yeah.
interrupted you at college, but
Yeah.
it's so powerful, important. Please continue.
Yeah. And it just keeps going. So I got married to my high school sweetheart. We moved back home to our hometown. Life was good. I have my little siblings, so the youngest are in second grade at the time, so we're spending lots of time with them. When we got married, they're in second grade. So
Wow.
we're 15 years apart. So from the youngest. And so I had my first child when I was 26. I honestly remember him being 9 months old and being like, life, because of what I had gone through, I was like, life is too good right now. Something's going to happen. That was the
Uh,
mentality that I had. And real. Like I didn't just say that as like, oh, something's going to happen. No, like I like felt it. And then it proved true, which is like the worst, shortly after my mom got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
mm,
And so that diagnosis right away, it's going to be death,
mhm.
like they're most likely. And so here I am, new mom, running a business, trying to take care of my siblings and trying to take care of my mom, who was my best friend at the time. And she lived a year after, which we were very fortunate for that year, but it was the year of pure exhaust. I was never, I mean, I would cry, but like I was never processing any of my own stuff. I was just taking care of everybody else. There was too
Yeah.
much to
You
take
got a
care
baby
of.
to take care of. You got siblings to
Yeah.
take care of. You got a sick
Yeah.
mom to take care of. Yeah.
Yep. Right. So when she died, then I'm still now I'm really trying to take care of my brothers because they're in middle school and early high school, and I'm trying to be there for them. Um, and have another kid, and but in that time I truly found Jesus. I grew up in the church all my life, but I had never really followed him. If
Mm,
I mean, there's a difference. And so I believed, but I didn't follow him. And it was like there was a moment when she was sick, my mom was sick, that I was like, it just hit me. Either this world is all we have and it really stinks, or there's something more and
mhm,
it's so real, So it was just that
mhm,
moment. And so began to seek him after she died in a new way, but
mhm,
also
mhm.
very struggling. And so it got to a point where all of a sudden one summer I thought I had food allergies. I blamed it on I removed all food because my stomach was bothering me so bad. Every time I ate, I would just be sick. And so I was down to eating protein shakes and rice cakes, and I'm not kidding. Like I said, that's the only thing that doesn't hurt my stomach. And I had friends that kindly gave me, every product there is, every cleanse, every, thing that they could throw at me. But none of it worked. And I got to the point where I was in a surgeon's office, just exploring options, and they were going to scope my stomach and do all these things. And that kind doctor, I still say it was the Lord, asked me multiple times, what happened in the spring when this started? What happened? What happened? What happened?
Mm.
He asked me probably 5 times, and I was so oblivious. This is how oblivious I was. I looked at him and said, Nothing.
Nothing happened in the spring.
Nothing happened in the spring. But on my way home, I realized my youngest brothers had graduated that spring. And it was the first time I wasn't having to pour into like them and take care of them. And I was like losing that piece of my mom again, like
Mm,
I wasn't being their mom now, and don't have my mom, so I don't have that connection. And, and the next day I called a counselor and realized I needed to start. And so that's where I started is counseling and
wow.
seeking the Lord. But then I found Revelation Wellness, and started listening to their podcast when I worked out and combining the word and God and found so much healing in that.
Hmm.
And so it just kept going, combining all the things, getting out my grief, moving my body, but to truth and seeking the Lord. He just kept me bringing me on a journey of
Hmm.
healing and restoration more and more.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, thank you. That's a huge story, but
Yeah.
you did an amazing job of sharing it succinctly. I think there's so much power and truth in that I
Mm,
want to stop down on a few things for
yeah.
our listeners. And the first thing is that our body
Mm,
and our spirit are not separate.
no.
Like our spirit influences our
Mm,
body. They're a whole thing. Like, and when I say
yeah.
spirit, I mean like if I'm grieving, you might not see that in my body,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But my spirit is wrestling. I'm having a hard time, man. I'm crying randomly between
Yeah.
like driving from one place to another. There's nobody in the car. Finally, I'm all by myself and I can just let that
Yes.
go, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but that that comes at a cost and a price to the body.
Hmm.
For those who aren't aware, there's an amazing set of research and literature. Roger Pennebaker did some amazing work. He called it healing it up by writing it down. And the idea though being is that back in the 80s they did research showing that if you wrote down your most traumatic memories, if you wrote them down, if you took 15-20 minutes and you wrote it down, that actually impacted your immune system. You'd be in a
Wow.
terrible mood for a week.
Really?
um,
Right.
your immune markers, your T cells and stuff would actually increase in your body. But then thereafter, 6 months later, your incidence of illness,
Mm,
compared to the average population who didn't go through that, your incidence of illness dropped 40% by
yeah.
comparison. And you would actually report being less depressed, less anxious,
Hmm.
and doing much better. And that was the start of the research. But the idea being like, how does that work? How does it work that things that I have in my mind and in my heart, so to speak, how
Hmm.
does that influence and impact the body? And it turns out the way God made it, they're not separate. They
No.
they they work together. It
Yeah.
reminds me of the story where the friends of the paralytic man drop him down from the roof to be at Jesus's feet.
Yeah.
And Jesus says to the man, "Your sins are forgiven." Like, what does that have to do with
That's the
anything? The
first
guy wants
thing.
to walk, but that's what he says. That's what he
Yeah.
says. He ties right in that moment. He ties the man's spiritual health
Hmm.
to the strength of his body. And then the Pharisees are all, up in our like,
Yeah.
who's this guy? And
Yeah.
he's like, hey, which one's easier, to forgive sins or tell this guy to walk? And so he asks him to pick up his mat and walk. And I don't believe it's a mistake that those
Yeah.
things are tied together in that moment with Christ, because what the man needs is to be forgiven.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with him getting up and walking. And so
100%.
it's so in your story is that is there's a huge deep truth there that I want our listeners to get. And that is, if you are wrestling in your body with unexplained health issues, and you
Yes.
have been for a while,
Mm.
it's very possible that there are things in your spirit that are affecting your body.
Yeah.
And this is not woo, this is science,
Yeah.
this
It is.
exists. Like, we
Yeah.
can study
Yeah.
this. And in that wrestling with that will actually improve your health outcomes. It
Yeah.
sounds like it did for you.
Yeah. And it's not a huge overhaul that you have to do. It doesn't take much. Like, sit with the Lord and write out an honest prayer today. Like, just write out and don't hold back. Don't edit yourself. Just let it all out and then ask him what he has to say to you. Like,
Mm.
you start there. Like, it can be so simple. And he's like the best at telling you what to do next. So like it doesn't have to be these huge things, but just start to notice. Like when I began, like I always treated my body over here in one box, my spiritual life in this box, my emotions over here. And when I finally understood they were all like under one umbrella, it
Yeah.
changed everything.
Mm,
It changed everything.
yeah. Well said. Well said. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that story, and thank you for being open and honest about that. I did also want to point out this
Hmm.
happens to a lot of moms,
Hmm.
and I'm not a mom, obviously. And I love my wife, and I'm so
Yeah.
glad she's the mother of my children. But there's this thing that happens in women, and that is that, and I say this as a guy, okay? I understand. I don't know what it's like to be on the receiving end, but you can be going through all this stuff,
Hmm.
and then you can get pregnant, and then
Yeah.
you can have a baby, and you
Yeah.
can go through all the physical stress involved of like building a life and
Yeah.
breastfeeding and sleep deprivation and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And for a while, you kind of lose yourself, like
Hmm.
and you
Yeah.
don't have control over that. You are now mom, and you're
Yeah.
gonna be mom, by golly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Despite whatever else was going on.
Mhm.
When you are on the other side of that, though,
Yeah.
it's not like all that stuff in your life didn't happen. It still can affect you. It can still affect your health. It can still affect your
Yes.
your physical body and stuff. And so what I love about your story is that God gave you the opportunity to become a mom. God
Mhm.
God gave you the strength you needed to be there for your siblings and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he also guided you in a process of healing so that that wasn't your whole story for the rest of your life. You could be a grandma someday still with all that stuff,
Yep.
but but as a mom going through that,
Hmm.
in your heart and mind, is that something that you could deal with toddlers? Is this something you have to
Hmm.
be at a certain stage of motherhood before you can look back on those stuff? In your heart, what do you believe about moms seeking
Yeah.
their freedom from grief
Yeah.
and stress, and
Yeah.
also for forgiveness?
Yeah. There's never a good time in motherhood to do it, right? Like I'm just starting to get like I have a high schooler now, and it's so busy. It's crazy. Like I thought I was busy before I didn't know busy. Like, it's just so there's never a good time. It's and the people who come in for health coaching, they feel like they have this guilt for like taking care of themselves, and we almost put it I'd almost even say it's a pride of like, I can do this all. Like, we think we need to do
Mm-hmm.
everything and we don't need to take care of ourselves. In that, like, let's just throw that out the window. It does not take a long time. None of this takes long, but it takes promising yourself you'll show up. When I started counseling, I told myself I would not cancel a single session
Mm.
because I knew every time it was going to come up, I didn't want to
Something
do
was
it.
going to
And I
come
didn't
up.
have time. And I needed to be with my kids because my kids were young and I was driving. They didn't have online counseling at the time. So I was driving an hour and spending an hour there and then driving an hour home. Who has time for 3 hours every other
Sure.
week?
How
I
selfish of you.
didn't. Yeah, it was so selfish leaving my kids with a babysitter when I could barely get a babysitter for my work time. Like it's never easy, but it's so worth it because if we're not healing ourselves, we're just gonna like put that on our kids. Like if I still felt all that, the anger that would come up quicker when they're like messing up it just wouldn't be good. But it doesn't take a lot. And even my last person I health coached, she came in and she thought like the homework's gonna be so much. I don't have time to overhaul my life. I have two kids, I work, all the things. But it doesn't take a lot. She just started waking up in the morning and listening to a, a Lectio 365, which is just like a be still
Mm.
time with the word of Jesus. Like she started there. So what's 10 minutes? And then it added to something else. And now she enjoys it so much she doesn't want to give that up. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's just adding little things in or making little space for you to simply be.
Hmm.
And you can work through these things in simple ways. It doesn't have to be these huge things. And doesn't even have to be counseling or, what? It can be starting with forgiveness and you'll see this huge shift.
Hmm.
And, take a half hour and do that. And it's good. It's good to do that even when your kids are busy. It's good to make that space. Yeah.
That's right. One of the reasons I love exercise as a habit is as a good habit, as a redeeming habit, is because this this idea of taking time for myself,
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
idea of carving out a space to move, to do something that's good for me, to to have to plan around that. Like
Hmm.
and the cool thing about exercise is you can't really do a lot of other things while you exercise. You can't be
Yeah.
like I'm also gonna mop while I
Yeah.
do my stretching.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not. It's not gonna
Yeah.
happen. You need to stretch. Or I'm also going to plan out the budget while I go for a run.
Mhm.
Like, good luck with that. You
Right.
might think a
Right.
little better. You might be able to solve a few problems, but
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to keep all those numbers in your head, right? You
Yeah.
just got to
No.
run, right? And what I love about exercise is, for me in my life,
Hmm.
hence the
Yeah.
setup. It has always forced me to spend time with my father, whether
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
in worship, whether it's in thought and prayer, whether it's just I don't know how you feel about this, but when I
Yeah.
get broken down physically, when I'm at the end of a very terrible set or something, you
Hmm.
can't not pray. Have you heard the joke? It's a pastor, he gets to heaven, and a taxi driver gets to heaven, and they're standing in line, and St. Peter, it's a silly joke, this is not like scriptural, but it's still kind of funny. And so the pastor gets a wool robe and a wooden
Mhm.
staff, and then the taxi driver comes up to St. Peter and he's a welcome, good and faithful servant. He gets a golden staff and a silver robe. And the pastor's like, wait, I'm a pastor. He's a taxi driver.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And St. Peter goes, well, when you preached your sermons, everybody fell asleep. But when that man drove, people were praying. It's,
That's funny.
it's such a dumb joke, but exercise can
Yeah.
do that because
Yeah.
it breaks you down
Hmm.
to the root of yourself, where
Yeah.
there's no pretense, there's no I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
My physical body literally can't go on, and guess what happens? You start going, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
Lord,
Right.
I'm not enough. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
I only have a little bit left. Please be with me. Like, it's so strange, the prayers that can come out when you
Yeah.
realize that you can't do this all by
Yeah.
yourself. And,
Yeah.
and exercise is such a cool discipline in that respect, because
Yeah.
if I say to somebody, hey, I need you to pray first thing in the morning for 10 minutes,
Yeah.
not everybody knows how to approach God's heart groggy and coffee. It's something you can learn. It's not a bad
Yeah.
discipline. But if I
Right.
say, hey, I need you to go for a 10-minute walk, and while you're
Yeah.
walking, I want you to thank God for your day. And I
Yeah.
want you to spend some time with your father, and I want you to listen to some worship music that really lifts you up. And that's all you're going to do for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What's cool is when you set a timer and go for a walk, you walked. Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas, some individuals, if I ask them to spend 10 minutes in prayer in the morning, they somehow end up on their phone anyway. so,
Yep. Yep.
so
It's huge.
I
Yeah.
love that exercise as a discipline. You have some workshops that you get to teach. Can you tell us about
Yeah.
how you help people make the space
Yeah.
for coming together and spending time in their exercise discipline?
Yeah, I do these be still stretching and journaling classes that are an hour and a half, and they're always on a certain topic. Like my next one's about when anxiety is overwhelming, how to breathe
Mm.
through it. And so we teach, I teach the science. First we slow our bodies down. We do some breathing always, but I teach the science first because God designed science. So people want to know the science behind these things. So
Mhm.
we teach the science. Then I move into usually a journaling practice. And so it's guided journaling. They're not left on their own to do whatever, but it's questions to really reflect. And so they're
Mm.
getting that soul work done in that
Mhm.
time that they don't make time for, right? So
Mhm.
I'm just
Mhm.
creating the space and time. You schedule this class and then you get to sit
And then you go
and
do
do
it.
it, right? You get to go do it and you're guided through it. You don't have to wonder, what do I do? What do I do in this time? So they work through that, and then I move into biblical teaching on the topic.
Mm.
And then we stretch and we do really slow, gentle stretches, but we get it in our body. So we just learn things, but now we're gonna, move to gentle music and be reminded of what we learned throughout it and keep stretching our bodies. And then we have time where we just lay on the mat. They're just
Mhm.
laying, they get a blanket, a pillow, good smelling lavender towel, all the good things. So they're very rested. And
Yeah.
We just meditate on that. So we'll do breath prayers, we'll do meditation on scripture, asking questions of the Lord. But it's such a sweet time, and people are so restored after it and feel like that was so good. We need that space. We don't,
Yes.
when do we ever carve 90 minutes out just to go slow?
Mm,
Like, not very often. I mean,
yeah.
even
Like a
myself.
year ago. I think I did that a year ago. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's so, so needed.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that. I think that's so good. You know, when I disciple men in my community,
Hmm.
and one of the things that I do is I'll say, "Hey, I want you to meet me at my house. I want you to come fasted, and we'll go from there." And I will drive them. We live in the great state of Arkansas, so there's the state parks all
Yeah.
over the place. It's the natural state. I
Yeah.
will drive them to a hike. We will hike, and then we will literally sit at a waterfall and just spend time
Mm.
talking, praying, and get under the waterfall because that's what guys do, and get ladies can too. I highly
Sounds
recommend it. I think it's
wonderful.
great. And
Yeah.
and then peace out. And it's like, oh my gosh, I needed that so much. I know that that's how
Hmm.
I get away and spend time
Yeah.
with my Father. Jesus did that all the time.
Yeah.
That's how he did it. And creating that space in an
Hmm.
exercise workshop
Yeah.
sort of way is so powerful. So I just want to say from me to you, thank you for what you
Yeah.
do. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. Exercise is great. Lifting heavy
Hmm.
weights is awesome. Jumping around
Hmm.
and doing jumping jacks is powerful. Going for
Yep.
runs, eating well, all that's good. All
Yeah.
that's good. But if our soul is separate from that practice,
Yep.
if our spirit and the things we need to forgive and the
Yep.
grief we're wrestling through,
Yeah.
if it's separate from that practice, sometimes it can do more harm than good.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I'm so grateful that you're helping individuals integrate that. And I also want to recognize God's goodness in helping you do the same for
Yeah.
yourself.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. And when we do separate, I'd just like to say, we treat our bodies like a project, like something to be fixed,
Mm,
separate than us. But when we combine them, it's just something to be cared for and take like it's a gift. And so it just changes your mindset when
mhm.
you bring worship and your whole self into taking care of your body.
Yeah, well
You know?
said. Well said. Well,
Yeah.
this has been such a useful and powerful conversation. Thank you, Leah. And I wanted to point
Yeah.
listeners to you actually have a free ebook that they can get
Yeah.
connected to. I think
Yeah.
the title is "Let's Reclaim the Truth About Our Body." That link
Yeah.
is in the show notes. Can you tell my listeners when they get a hold of that, what are they going to find in there? Let's reclaim
Yeah.
the truth about our body.
There's 5 days in there to read a super short thing, just different truths about your body and the biblical perspective on that. We learn so much from the world. The world has we let the world be our teacher about our body, and
Mm,
but God says a lot about it in His Word, and so you'll just discover that in there of what He says about your body, and then there's truth cards at the back that you can post on your mirror so you can repeat that truth of yourself. But it's good to know what he's saying um, about our bodies because it's
well said.
very different from what the world has said.
True that. True
Yeah.
that. That's and he made it. So like
Yeah.
let's let him tell us what we need to think and do about it.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Awesome. Well, hey, Leah, thank you so much for the opportunity to get together. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I pray over you and pray
Thank
over
you.
your family and your ministry. So if you would bow your
Yeah.
head with me.
Yeah.
Father God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to connect with my sister, and thank you for the path that you have led her on. Leah doesn't mean she's weary and grieving. Leah means that she is one you have taught to deal with grief and to deal well with weariness. And God, I just pray that you would bless that in her so that she can help other individuals to be able to wrestle that out too, to get close to your heart, that you would give them rest and peace in the workshops that she leads, that you would bless her words as she speaks over her children and her husband and the individuals that she leads when they work out. Lord, I just pray that you would also give her good health and good joy in the time that she spends with you. Lord, I pray freedom, grace, and blessing in the truths that you've spoken over her. And I pray that those things will trickle into those who have been informed by the world, but need to be close to your heart so that their bodies are a part of their walk with you, not separate. God bless this time and bless our listeners in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Leah,
Thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much for the time today. Guys, this has been Coach Alex Van Houten on the Faithful Fitness Podcast. You guys know what I'm going to say next. Until next time, train hard, but pray harder.
Hey, if this episode helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a raving review so more people can find Faithful Fitness. Oh, and my dad's new devotional is almost out now. You can grab a copy for yourself and then join our free community at Better Daily by clicking on the links in the show notes below. We all have a cross to carry, but it's lighter when we do it together. So check out both links in the show notes. Don't be a big mo Bob, just do it. Until next time, don't forget, train hard and pray even harder.